So now that the Pixel Fold has been out for a pretty good long while at this point, I decided it would be smart to run a poll and kind of check the temperature of the room and see how those of you who purchased a Pixel Fold, how you're feeling about this device now that you've had it for a little while. So I went to my community page here on YouTube and I asked this question. For those that bought a Pixel Fold, how are you feeling about it? Rate it 1 to 5, 5 being as close to perfect as you can get, and 1 being an absolutely awful experience. And I asked people who have had a bad experience, or who maybe, they're not a 5, they're a 4, 3, 2, or 1. Give me some data. Tell me what it is about the Pixel Fold that you are not necessarily loving. And so in this video, we're going to take a look at these results, which you can see on the screen now. And then we're going to go through a lot of these comments and kind of see what the general feeling on this device is. As you can see, 346 votes, which is actually more than I expected there to be. I'm assuming all of you were honest and you only voted if you did indeed have this device and had some thoughts to share on it. So let's look at these results first off. 346 results, and the winner of this poll with 32% was a 3 out of 5. That puts it right there in that middle of the pack. It's not the worst phone they've ever had. It's not the perfect phone either. Second place was 29%. That was 4 out of 5. So I'd say a 4 out of 5 is pretty doggone good. If I were voting on this, I'd probably go with a 4. It's harder for me to give anything a perfect score. A 5, it's nearly a perfect phone. Man, it's close to that for me. I would be waffling between like a 4 and a 5. If this was out of 10, I might have gone like a 9. So like a 4.5 or something like that. That's where I'm at. And it seems like a lot of people are in that 4 range. 3, though, is the winner, obviously. 5 out of 5 with 18% is next up. That's a decent amount of people that think that this device is darn near perfect. And obviously 32, 29, and 18, that would be 79% of the vote cast is, I would say, on the positive side of things, right? Maybe you could say 3 splits the difference, and at that point, it would be 29 and 18 is 39, 47% of the vote. So a little bit less than half the vote is on the positive side. Almost no one gave it a 2. If you were not a 3 and you were lower than that, you were probably a 1. You absolutely have hated this device. So what I'll say is this about this general part of the video. I am kind of surprised at the results. They are more negative than I expected them to be. I thought 4 would probably win, 3 would be second place, maybe 5 would be third, and then we'd have a split like this at 1 and 2. But it's actually a bit lower than I expected it to be based on my experience, which has been really quite good. And for those of you who have described me as a pixel shill that won't say negative things about the device, here I am, openly showing you poll results that did not turn out the way that I expected, that are more negative than I expected. And we're going to get a lot more negative here pretty quickly because we're going to be digging into these comments. I've not read all of them. You can see I've read several of them, but there are a lot more that are newer that I haven't read. So we're going to be seeing these real-time reaction. Let's get into them. And a lot of these you may see referencing Surface Duo. If you're new to this channel, I covered Duo a ton over the last few years. Love that device. A lot of people might be talking about Pixel Fold in kind of the context of Surface Duo. So I missed the multitasking ease that my Surface Duo had. I really miss using the Slim Pen. Yeah, that's absolutely a thing. I do think that Duo probably multitasks easier in a more automatic way. The pen is definitely a feature that a lot of people are going to be missing. Getting the right case makes a difference. I'm not using a case at all. Seems like they're saying that their case maybe isn't perfect. It's got some annoying quirks about reaching the screen on the left side. I had to really press it in to tap the screen. But they do think that Android 14 battery life has been night and day, and it's been a great phone. So that's overall positive. We've got another Pro Duo comment there. I voted 5. But it's really about a 4.5. If battery life was a tad better, it'd be a true 5. That's not far from where I'm at. Another vote for 5, close to perfect. App optimization is needed. Yeah, we definitely need more and more third-party developers to actually update their apps to get rid of the pillar boxing on the sides, the black bars. Apps need to be allowed by the developer to resize. I'm not going to get too deep into this, but think about it like this. If a developer makes an app and they put a bit of code into their app that says this app should not resize, at least not beyond a certain limit, does it make sense for Google, who makes Android, makes the operating system, to override the wishes, the design of the app developer and say, you put this code in that says don't resize my app. We assume for a reason, right? Maybe it's an app like Twitter that when it resizes, which you can download the Arrow Twitter app and it will resize, if there's a piece of media in there, you have a hard time. It's really wide and you can barely read any text and it just doesn't work. Well, we're going to assume you said no resizing for a good reason. Does it make sense for them to override those design wishes and stretch it for them? No, I don't think it really does. It makes more sense for the app developer to design an app that's actually going to work on a larger screen. Better touchscreen hardware is needed. I'm not sure that I've experienced any sort of touch-related issues. I'm not sure I've actually heard of that from anyone else at all. Better apps like photo gallery and video recorder, and use the latest freaking Snapdragon or whatever it takes to not overheat and run efficiently. So I love Google Photos. I know not everybody does, but I use Google Photos all the time, automatically doing a backup of my photos and videos. Go to photos.google.com. Now they're on your computer. I love that functionality, and I use it to actually send high quality images and videos to people that maybe don't have an Android device with RCS, and that also works really well. Video recorder, it's fine. I don't think the video is nearly as good as like a Samsung or an iPhone device. It could definitely be improved if that's what you mean. Using the latest Snapdragon, I could definitely see that as well because it does run hot for a lot of people. Other than that, it's a beast. Front screen is the best on any foldable. Inner screen is just as, and then it trails off, I guess. This person says lack of customization, and they wish that it had a Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 or even the 8 Plus Gen 1. Emulation isn't the greatest in compared to other phones. That's absolutely accurate. It's not as raw powerful, so if you're pushing it on an emulator, it may not run as well as something that has one of these newer Snapdragon processors. This comment says heat issues and having to force it to lay flat. Again, we talked about the heat issues. That forcing it to lay flat thing is something that really just doesn't bother me. I mean, if you just open it like that and you put no extra pressure, perhaps you can see that's about what you get. If you apply just a little bit more pressure, it does tend to be flat. And again, unless I'm like actively looking for that, it's not something that I see or notice, but different strokes for different folks. If this is something that really bothers you, then fair enough. Who am I to tell you that you are wrong? This person says they haven't had many issues, but the durability seems a bit iffy to them. Numerous marks and scratches on the inner screen and the bezel, and they find some of the launcher behavior to be bizarre. Okay, so let's take a look at my Pixel Fold. We're going to try to get in nice and close and look and see if we can see any of these sorts of things, maybe using the light strategically. I've heard people having scratches there on that bit of the hinge, and it appears as though, yeah, I do think I have some scuffs. I don't think that that's fingerprint, although maybe, no, yeah, those are definitely some scuffs there on that bit of the hinge. The railing, you can see what it looks like. There's something going on there. I don't know if it's really scratches, but there's definitely something going on there that I must admit this is the first time I'm noticing pretty much any of this. Looking at the screen here, I would expect there to be some scratches, some micro scratches, just like you see on the Z Fold. It's very difficult to get a camera to focus on this. To be honest with you, I don't really see a whole lot. There's one little scratch right there that I've noticed. Otherwise, just a little bit of dust. That's really hard to get all the dust off of the screen, just the material. It seems like it just attracts things. That's not a scratch. That's a scuff that I literally just created. So to me, I'd say that the screen durability is pretty much identical to what I saw with my Z Fold. I do have that one scratch there that, to be honest with you, I had not noticed at all because when the screen's on, it's just not visible. You have to have the screen off and then be looking for it. As for the stuff on the rail, I actually tried to like wipe that down again to see if it was something that would come off. It's not. I'm not sure what's going on there, but you have a rail that makes contact like that. You're going to have little abrasions or whatever you might want to call that. All in all, is what it is. You've seen it for yourself, so you can kind of make your own judgment for there. They talk about the fact that Google's widget sizing is broken for the weather app, which is true, although that is fixed on the Android 14 beta. It wasn't just the weather app, it was also the digital well-being app. It would look like one thing. If it was on this screen, open it up, it would change the way it looked. There was a bug there, and that is fixed. They say how you can have 6 apps on the taskbar when the phone is open, but 5 when it's folded. Absolutely drives me crazy as well. I either want 5 and 5 or 6 and 6. It shouldn't change. There's no consistency when apps have a black bar. The consistency there is when the developer decided to not have their app be resizable. So it may seem like there's no consistency, but it is 100% up to the developer to put a bit of code into their app that says, do not resize this app. Some apps take up half the screen, others take up more than half. That is, again, up to the developers. You can actually have resizability to a point. So some developers have said no resizing at all, and that's why they stay in the phone shape. Apps that stretch out a little bit may have resizing to a point, and then they stop. Heat issues, mostly screen dims if I'm outside for a while and I get warnings that the device is too hot when recording video or taking a lot of pictures. I'm glad I've not seen that heat stuff happen to me, but I've heard plenty of people say it. The screen could stay at its peak brightness longer for sure, and I would definitely not hate that. This person says the hardware could be a bit better. The fact it can't open flat is a little bit annoying, particularly when you compare it to the Z Fold 5. I think this is one of those things that isn't really like functionally meaningful, but I get that some people are going to be like, oh, I just don't like that it's not flat. I get that. This person has a bulge that has developed in their crease, which would definitely be a little bit concerning. You should have a 1-year factory warranty. Maybe there's something you can do with that. That is something that unfortunately does seem to happen with these foldable devices. Sometimes a tiny bit of debris makes it through the brushes inside the hinge and makes it to the underside of the screen, and that can cause a failure. This person says the heat at times leads to super slow charging. That's definitely something that I have experienced as well. I primarily charge my device with this, the Pixel Stand Gen 2, and I have it set to the maximum cooling. And what's so cool about this wireless charger is that there's a little crease right in there. Maybe I shouldn't call that a crease. Maybe that's more of like a gap or something like that. And basically there's a fan in here. So when your Pixel Fold is sitting here wirelessly charging, there is air being blown up the back side of the device. And I've done a couple of tests with this because I'm often sitting right here working, and my Pixel Fold will just go on that stand right in front of me, which is really convenient. So, maybe I'll be up and about and my phone will drop to like 75%. I'll start working, I'll set it down. By the time I pick it back up again, I'm back at 85, 90%. And there is an application called, I can't remember the name, it just says A battery, lowercase a, capital B, battery. Maybe I'll drop a link in the description. Really simple app, but it will show you the temperature that your phone's battery is. You can see I'm at 27.4 Celsius, which is nice and cool. And routinely on that stand while charging for a good long while, I'll hit about 35, 36 Celsius, which is fine. It's not warm enough to thermally throttle at all. If you plug it into something that's going to try to push the charging speed, the worst I've experienced is not charging stopping, but charging speed going down. Maybe I'll start and I'll hit 20, 22 watts, and then after a couple of seconds, a couple of minutes, it drops down to like 15, and then maybe it drops down to like 12. That is absolutely annoying. And if you're trying to use a wireless charger that doesn't have a fan, I have seen it actually stop charging in that instance, which is, again, extremely annoying. We need Android 16 badly. Well, let's not skip 14 and 15. Neither one of those are out yet, so let's get those first, and then we can go to 16. 5 for the outer screen, 2 for the inner. This person said it's been okay, about in line with my expectations of a first-gen device. I don't think I would get a Pixel Fold 2 unless Google's doing a really decent trade-in for the previous gen and want people to truly invest in the Pixel ecosystem. That's totally reasonable. Samsung is normally very aggressive with their trade-ins. You typically see $1,000 to go from a Fold 4 to a Fold 5, and hopefully Google does something similar. But I would say most people probably shouldn't be upgrading a flagship every year. Maybe shouldn't isn't the right word. That's up to you. It doesn't make sense for most people to do that. Maybe would be a better way to say it, and it's like doubly true on an $1,800 foldable, but I get where you're coming from. Chris says they returned it because it was way too heavy. And yeah, if you're going from like a normal phone to this, it's heavy. It's for sure heavy. I was using a Duo 2, a Z Fold 4, so the Pixel Fold for me was like, it's heavy, but like I'm used to heavy, so like I wasn't super bothered by that. Another comment on that, the chonkiness is slightly annoying. I'm not going to make it my main phone until 14 is out, and I will have to root it again for a little while. Boy, I haven't bothered rooting a phone in a really good long while. Other than my original Surface Duo, which I did have to root to save it. Or maybe that was the Duo 2. One of these Duos had to be rooted in order to save it from something stupid that I did. Software is lacking in so many ways in comparison to Samsung, and it's ridiculously heavy. Also, no S Pen. Samsung does obviously have a lot of software tweaks that the Pixel Fold does not have, and this is something that's highly subjective, right? Like, you may really be into Samsung's software. For me, I'm not really bothered by the stuff that Samsung has that maybe the Pixel Fold doesn't, because there's things the Pixel Fold has that the Z Fold doesn't, and actually, I lean more towards Google software in terms of just my preference. Honestly, Samsung is in a weird place where it's like, they have like 100 features that I maybe use like 8 or 9 of, whereas the Pixel Fold or Pixel devices maybe have like 20 features that I use maybe 9 or 10 of. So it's like there's fewer features, but there's more stuff that I end up actually daily using than on the Samsung devices, if that makes any sense. Samsung has like a ton of stuff, and I'm not advocating that they should stop packing as many features as they can into their devices, because I think that's part of their shtick. That's part of like what they do, and that's part of why people love them. If you love all those options, all the crazy things you can do, great, Samsung is going to be a great option for you to go with. But yeah, Samsung has a totally different taskbar that can be, pinned to stay in place. There's lots of things that Samsung has that Google doesn't, and that Google has that Samsung doesn't. So it's up to your preference. Whichever one you prefer, you're absolutely rational in feeling that way. And no S Pen. That's another thing that for me, my handwriting is abysmal. I have really, really bad fine motor skills. So for me, like a pen is not something that I ever use, whether it was my Duo or my Z Fold or my S23 Ultra. I just don't use the pen. I just don't find it useful because I'm just bad with a pen. So that's another subjective one. You're totally justified in feeling that way. What option do I choose if I don't have a Pixel Fold? None of them. I'm not talking to you. All right, guys, so this was a long video, but I honestly think that sometimes videos like this, where you're not just hearing from me, you're hearing from a lot of people. You're kind of getting the temperature of the room. Maybe I said that earlier in the video, and it kind of, I think is going to be very useful for some people towards understanding not just what people like me, tech reviewers, YouTubers, and so forth, how we feel about the device, but kind of hearing from other normal people. And then also, of course, seeing that data kind of broken down into that poll. If this was some useful data for you towards making that decision, hit that like button before you go. Maybe subscribe for more content just like this. And guys, until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.